Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw Gears 12, and welcome back to the discography of Megadeth. Of course, today we are talking about Cryptic Writings, the next album from Megadeth, the follow-up to Euthanasia. So let's just dive into this album and see what comes out, really. So, like Euthanasia, there was a lot of stuff that I could talk about, but I want to get to the main points about this album, and basically, like, as always, give you my honest opinion about this album, because at first it was a mixed feeling for this album, for Cryptic Writings, because I was really just trying to process what was happening, and it was really mixed. And then I kind of came to the conclusion that I actually enjoy this album more than Euthanasia in a couple of ways, and sometimes Euthanasia is better than Cryptic Writings in some ways, and sometimes it's not. But the first thing that I really noticed, and I said out loud, and basically kept thinking this while I kept listening to the album over and over and over, each time I got through the whole listen of the full album, I kept thinking the same thought, that this reminds me more of Countdown to Extinction than Euthanasia. Now, before you guys start going, whoa, 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 are you saying that Cryptic Writings is Countdown to Extinction Part 2? No, no. The music qualities and just the way that the songs are structured on Cryptic Writings reminds me more of Countdown than Euthanasia. And I think one big key factor of why I would believe that is because on Euthanasia, either on all of the tracks or most of the tracks, the tuning of the guitars and bass are E flat, not E standard. And I'm thinking that the fact that Cryptic Writings is back to E standard, tuning-wise, that I would think this. And that might be true, but I think another reason maybe is because the songs sound more upbeat on this album. They don't sound really slow and really just dark sounding because the tuning is, of course, back to E standard. And I think just the way that the tone of the album, too, the tone of the guitar tone, bass tone, drums, vocals, I think that had another element to why I believe that this reminds me more of Countdown, because like I said, some of the songs sound more upbeat. There's a lot of melodies that are really interesting, and there's actually a couple of moments where Megadeth on this album get kind of back to their roots in a little bit way. Not exactly all the way back to Rest in Peace, but they're kind of getting back to what really made people go, I love this, because there's a song on there that really reminds me of the older Megadeth. I can't remember exactly how to pronounce the song, but it really is a fast-paced track that really stands out to me. I wish I knew the title of it, but it's in the description. I'll make sure to point it out. But like the songs, like the opener, which is Trust, which I think is a great opener, a great drum line, and then we have this really awesome David Ellefson bass line that really just like a melodic thing, and I really enjoy that. Then the riff comes in. It's very simplistic. I actually learned how to play it within 5 minutes of actually listening to the song and then just going, okay, I learned the main riff, and because it's so simple, but it sounds really interesting and pretty cool. But, so yeah, and then Almost Honest, which is another interesting track, She-Wolf, which really stood out on the album. I mean, there's a lot of songs in here that really stand out to me, and I just love just the fact that there's some variety, there's some melodic songs, there's some slow down, there's some actually getting pretty fast songs, and there's just some middle songs that are kind of just grooving along, so that's what really made this album more enjoyable to me. So let's go to the sound of the band. Of course, Dave Mustaine, vocals first. So Dave Mustaine's vocals, I think the production on this, his vocals were, I think they're pretty decent. I think they're better than Euthanasia, because Euthanasia, that was just kind of a weird way of recording his vocals and how they sounded. But the sound and the mixing, it's pretty good. I can understand what he's saying over any of the musical parts, and I think his vocal style, I think, is kind of, he kind of feels more comfortable, I think, in this sense, because I think on Euthanasia it felt uncomfortable because he's not in E standard singing. He has to sing lower to match up with the E flat music. But since we're on E standard on this album, Cryptic Writings, his vocals are more comfortable. He's used to this, and I enjoy lyrically and just the way his voice sounds on this album more than Euthanasia. I think that, like I said, he was more comfortable. So let's go to the guitar playing, and then I'll get to the guitar tone. The guitar playing, Dave Mustaine, Marty Friedman, rhythm, and lead. I think that the solos on this album vary from pretty interesting solo-wise to, it could have been better, because there were some musical moments, rhythm and lead-wise, that I think that something could have been different, something could have been added more, but I think overall in the whole entire picture, I would say that the rating of just the individual guitar rhythm work and guitar lead work is pretty decent to good, because I was overall impressed with some of the music, even though some of it was simplistic and wasn't really entertaining and interesting to me. Most of it actually was in the good range and pretty decent, because I was still kind of surprised that some of the melodies that Megadeth were doing and some of the solos really impressed me, and some of the rhythm work, riff-wise, was actually really good too. So, like I said, pretty decent to good for that. The tone of the guitars, the thing is that it's heavy when it wants to be. It sounds like the tone of the guitars they picked for this album is on the lighter side rather than the heavier side. I think if they would have went with a heavier tone, this album would have a heavier thing to it, because most of the songs, they're not really that heavy, but if they had a heavier tone, it would probably change up the mood of the song and the way the song is presented and how you would take it. But like I said, the tone is on the lighter side. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of a gripe. But at the same time, you know, maybe if they went with a heavier tone, maybe I wouldn't enjoy the music as much. I don't know exactly. But the tone they picked on the lighter side, not really heavy as much, but it can be when it wants to. David Ellefson, bass. Man, this guy impresses me. He is back. He's doing a lot of really interesting stuff. His bass stands out. It's really loud. I love the tone that he went with on this album, and I just love the bass melodies and how he gets to shine throughout this album. That's what I always love about Megadeth. They let David Ellefson just have his moments, and I love that Dave Mustaine allows the bass to get turned up and him have his moments, because David Ellefson's a great bass player. So Nick Menza on drums. Like I said earlier in the review about Nick Menza doing a cool drum pattern on the very beginning, or right as the album starts on Trust, I really love that, and it's a really good drum tone, and I think drum sound, and I really enjoy the drums on this album, the way they sound and the way that Nick Menza plays, because, like I said, some of the songs do get kind of faster and gets more interesting. As you go throughout the album, you'll find these songs that really stand out, and he does some really interesting things. He does a lot of cool drum beats and good drum patterns, and I just love the sound. It's very Megadeth sounding, if that's even a way you could at least give you an idea of what it sounds like, a Megadeth sound. It's heavy, but it's not too heavy to the point where, like, oh, this doesn't match up. But I just love what Nick Menza is doing on this album, because obviously he could just went really simplistic and not really give us much, just stay along with the beat, but he does switch it up a little bit. So that's what I enjoyed, is that Nick Menza is able to, once again, on an album that's kind of bring back a little bit. Sometimes it's kind of up in front, going a little bit faster. He's able to give us some really interesting stuff. So, Cryptic Writings. My final thoughts is that this album was, it interested me. It really gave me some pretty cool stuff to listen to. I really enjoyed some of the tracks on this album. Some of them I mentioned. I'll make sure to star or say something like, I like this song, in the description with the track listing, because like what I really wanted to focus on was the fact that Cryptic Writings, to me, is not an album that I hate. It's not an album that I love, but I really enjoyed some of the tracks, and overall, if I had to, I would listen to the album again and not really gripe about it, because my thing is that sometimes musically, it's not what they could have done, because you can tell in some songs they spent some really good time figuring out melodies and figuring out the riff patterns, but over here, on this other side, it's kind of slowed down. It's kind of not up to par with the rest of the album. But I think overall, when you look at the whole picture of the whole album and really take all of it in, and not just individual tracks, like putting them in order, like, okay, which one do I like, which one I don't like, when you take it all in, my thing is, it's a pretty decent to a good album, because I think Megadeth went back to the Countdown era in some moments, and they basically just tried some little different things, but I really enjoyed what this album came out to be, because obviously it could have came out way worse. We could have went in a whole nother direction and went just way downhill, but I think they still kept the momentum, some of it, throughout the album. So if I had to give a rating, I'd give this album an 8 out of 10. I know that's kind of high up there, but I really enjoyed this album, and I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm probably gonna buy it. Probably not the remastered version. I'm not exactly sure the difference between the original and the remastered of Cryptic Writings, but yeah, if it's ever in the store and it's pretty cheap, I'll probably just pick it up, because yeah, it's not exactly the fast-paced Megadeth that I'm Love and Rust in Peace and all that era, but at the same time, I enjoy the kind of slowed down stuff, but they do speed it up here and there. But like I said, musically, some of it's but some of it's pretty good. So I'd have to give props to Megadeth. This was a pretty interesting album. I expected to not like it, but I went in open-minded, and I was kind of surprised. So, 8 out of 10, Cryptic Writings. Thank you guys for watching. If you like me and you like the video, like the video. And if you like me and you want to see more, then click up on my name or subscribe to see more and see what I'm doing. So, as we all know, Megadeth discography. Up next is Risk. But we'll manage to get through it. Thank you guys for watching again. See ya.